Welcome to Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on TNA pay-per-view from last night. Lots of sites that advertise the internet pay-per-view on their sites did not even show it. I wonder, copyright violation or something? Even Ringside News, where I normally go to catch it, they didn't even post a link on their website, even though they said they did. But I went there myself after I got off work, so I would have missed it anyways. So, in the long run, I didn't get to see it, so I will be reading the results from the pay-per-view. But first, as normal, some brief insider TNA news. Prior to Jeff Hardy's match at the Lockdown pay-per-view, Matt Hardy wished his brother luck against Kurt Angle. And here's what he had to say on his Twitter account. Here's a shout out to my bro at Jeff Hardy brand, who's got a big match tonight on the TNA pay-per-view. Good luck and be safe tonight, little brother. Unquote. During tonight's Lockdown pay-per-view, TNA announced that the tickets for the 10-year anniversary of Slammiversary go on sale Friday, April 20th. And the Slammiversary pay-per-view takes place June the 10th at College Park Center in Arlington, Texas. Leticia Cline posted on her Facebook in regards to her planned wedding that was supposed to take place in June. I've contemplated this post for a few weeks now, but inevitably it's the only way to inform the masses to all that were involved, invited, and supported my wedding in June. With a heavy heart, I regret to tell you that it has been canceled. Reasons shall remain personal, and please respect her request. The last 5 years have been a beautiful journey, and though we take different paths in life, no matter where we go, we will always take a little of each other everywhere. Remember that there's love in holding, and there's love in letting go. And of her, what she was talking about. And last night, at the Lockdown pay-per-view, Chris Harris was making a pretty obvious thing to fans as he was promoting himself in the crowd. Chris Harris is formerly one half of the former tag team of America's Most Wanted, with his long AMW partner, TNA World Heavyweight Champ, former TNA World Heavyweight Champion James Storm. Eric Bischoff, who was once considered Bret Hart as a friend, now views the Hitman in a negative light when asked for comment on the legendary wrestler on Twitter. He responded, "And another sad, bitter person, too many of them in this business," unquote. Bischoff made similar comments 2 years ago during an interview with Monday Night Mayhem shortly after Hart railed the TNA Wrestling executive producer and Hulk Hogan by Twitter, and he is quoted by saying, "I feel sad for Bret because Bret is one of those people. And there are a lot of them. He's the type of person that needs someone to hate in order to feel significant himself," unquote. And now some news on TNA X Division Champion Austin Aries. Happy birthday goes to him, as it was yesterday. Turned 34 years old. He will celebrate his birthday He celebrated his birthday by competing in the Lethal Lockdown pay-per-view last night. And Kazarian will sport a new look at the pay-per-view, and because he debuted a new haircut, which consists of no hair. I guess he took some notes from Undertaker. Okay. He competed in a Lethal Lockdown match at the Lockdown, and he debuted his new look. TNA veteran cut off his trademark long hair as he appeared at Saturday's Lockdown Fan Fest with a shaved completely head. 2012 Lockdown pay-per-view starts off with a video package for the World Heavyweight title. Mike, Tenay, and Taz welcome us to Nashville for Lockdown. We go to the ring for tonight's opener, which is the match that has the most time in it. Lethal lockdown match, Team Eric versus Team Garrett. Stipulations, Team Eric loses. Eric Bischoff is fired from TNA. But probably just TNA TV. Where they go to the ring, out comes Garrett Bischoff. These are the rules to the match if you're not familiar with them. 2 men compete, one from each team for 3 minutes, and then the next person comes out. Yada, yada, yada. Falls away, and then I think at the last, when everybody's in the ring, when they've wrestled for like a minute or so, the top of the cage drops down with all the weapons tied to it and are allowed to be used for the match. Okay, well, they competed for the 3 minutes before the next wrestlers can come in from Team Eric. They go at it to start. Gunner takes control, and Garrett came back with 2 drop kicks. Gunner blocked him and overpowered him. Garrett came back with a drop kick from the top. Gunner came back with a big clothesline and a series of right hands. Garrett kept control until it's time for Bully Ray to come out, and then they double team him. Garrett gets beat down back and forth until the movie hits, and out comes X Division champion Austin Aries for Team Garrett. Now it's 2-on-2. Aries comes in and goes at it with Ray. Aries gets beat down but comes back. Aries ends up top and hits a big missile drop kick on Bully Ray. The next man out for Team Eric is Kazarian, sporting his bald head and getting no reaction from the crowd. They probably didn't even recognize him. Well, Kazarian put Team Eric back on top until AJ came out to even it up at three apiece. AJ clean house until things settle down, and we've got 3-on-3. AJ goes at it with Ray, hits a drop kick on him. Aries goes to work on Ray as AJ works on Gunner in the corner. Ray makes a save for Gunner and fights off Aries as the timer goes off for your next man out for Team Eric, which is Daniels. Daniels comes in and Team Eric takes back control. Mr. Anderson is next man out for Team Garrett. Anderson hits the cage and takes out Daniels and Gunner. Kaz and Daniel double team AJ. Timer goes off again, and the final man out for Team Eric is none other than Eric Bischoff. Eric comes in and holds his son while Ray slaps him. Kazarian joins in as does Gunner. Garrett goes down and they celebrate like they think they won the match. Numbers game continues until RVD is the last man out for Garrett's team. RVD came in, delivers clotheslines and kicks, clean the house. RVD hit Rolling Thunder on Billy Ray, and we see Eric Bischoff hiding. Top of the steel cage begins to drop, and it's loaded with the weapons. The weapons drop, and Anderson hits a bunch of trash can lid shots. RVD comes off the ropes with a trash can shot to Daniels. Eric Bischoff is still hiding behind a turnbuckle as Chaos breaks loose with the weapons. AJ and Aries finally grab Eric and bring him into the action. Aries slams Bischoff and skids on his face. RVD goes up to the top for a frog splash on Bischoff, but Gunner makes a save. Aries takes out Gunner, but gets slammed from high by Ray. Team Eric starts to make a comeback now. AJ and Kazarian battle on top rope, holding the cage. They walk the ropes, and Kazarian climbs out to the center of the ring. Hanging from the top of the cage where the weapons were once at. AJ follows him and kicks Kazarian down to the mat. AJ drops down with a big elbow on top of Kaz. RVD comes off the top with a frog splash on Kaz. Ray gets up and runs over AJ with a boot. Ray grabs a chair, but RVD kicks it into Ray's face. Daniel with a double underhook on RVD. Daniels grabs Garrett, but Garrett tackles him and covers for 2. Eric breaks the pin up with a kendo stick shots to his son's back. Eric repeatedly hits Garrett with a kendo stick while yelling at him. The crowd chants for Hulk Hogan. Garrett's back is covered in welts now. Bischoff Eric Bischoff shows off as the crowd boos him. Eric goes back to hitting his son with a kendo stick. Garrett gets up and hits the father with a guitar shot to end the match. As he got the guitar shot and pinned his dad. So, what a finish. Mike Tenay and Taz talk about Eric being gone for TNA now and not able to use the Bischoff name. TNA Tag Title match. Motor City Machine Guns versus Samoa Joe and Magnus. According to the results in this, wasn't much of a match. They went to the ring, and out first comes Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. Out next are the TNA Tag Champions, Magnus and Samoa Joe in the cage. Shelley starts things out with Magnus, and they do some back and forth. Shelley starts working on her legs. Sabin tags in. They double team Magnus with kicks. 1 count for Sabin. Joe gets the tag and goes at it with Sabin. Shelley gets a tag and comes off the top. Joe drops Shelley and in comes Magnus again. The Guns double team Magnus. Magnus throws Shelley into Sabin and Joe gets a tag again. More tags back and forth. Sabin ends up powerbombing Joe from the corner. Shelley and Magnus fight up to the top rope. Shelley sends Magnus to the mat and hits a double stomp from the top for a 2 count. Motor City ram Joe's head into the corner and double team Magnus with kicks. Another 2. More back and forth action. Shelley hits sliced bread on Magnus, but Joe breaks the pin. The champs miss a double team move and Magnus gets rolled up for a close 2. Magnus blocks sliced bread again and slams Shelley. Joe tosses Sabin onto Shelley. Joe and Magnus hit the snapmare. Elbow combination, this time for the pin. So your tag team champions still stay the same. Backstage segment with Jeremy Morris monitoring Twitter tweets. Robbie E. and Rob Terry come in. Robbie runs down Brother Devon and guarantees he will get back the TV title tonight, which is up next. Robbie E. is out first with Rob Terry. TNA TV champion Brother Devon is out next. Terry won't leave the cage, so Devon takes it into his own hands. This allows Robbie to take advantage and attack. Robbie works Devon over to start the match and taunts him. Devon fights back with right hands and chops in the corner. Devon charges but gets caught with a big boot and a clothesline. Robbie off the ropes with an elbow drop for a 2. Robbie with more offense and another pin attempt. Robbie climbs to the top rope, but Devon hits the ropes, and Robbie falls to the mat. Devon makes a comeback and hits a big shoulder, followed by a clothesline. Devon kicks Robbie in the gut and hits a neck breaker. Devon with a big splash in the corner and a spine buster for the win. After the match, Rob Terry comes back into the cage and attacks Devon from behind. Terry lays Devon out and helps Robbie up. Terry with a big power slam. Robbie smacks Devon as his music hits. Robbie goes back to hitting Devon while he's down before leaving the cage. Jeremy Morris is backstage still looking at Twitter tweets. He has a Twitter question for Matt Morgan. What's more important, ending Crimson's streak or getting revenge on him tonight? Morgan says he's going into this match for revenge. Morgan says he's going to make Crimson his red-headed bitch tonight. But that match is not up next. The Knockouts title was up next. Velvet Sky and Gail Kim, what I've read. And that was a shitty finish. We go to the cage. Out first comes challenger Velvet Sky. TNA Knockouts champion Gail Kim is out next with Madison Rayne right behind her. Gail attacks before the bell rings and starts beating Velvet around the cage. Velvet rolls Gail up out of nowhere for a 2 and takes control of the match. Gail turns it back around with a kick to the head. Velvet tries to come back. Gail goes to climb out of the cage, but Velvet interrupts her. Gail comes off the top with a missile drop kick and a 2 on Velvet. Gail with a backbreaker submission now. Gail wraps Velvet's leg around her head now, and Gail continues to control the match as the crowd roots for Velvet. Velvet manages a jawbreaker, but Gail takes her to the corner and keeps control. Gail taunts Velvet and shows off for the crowd now. Velvet moves and Gail charges in the corner as she hits the ring post. Velvet finally makes a comeback and hits a bunch of moves, but Gail kicks her off and climbs the cage. Velvet stops her, and they fight up top. Velvet ends up powerbombing Gail from the top. Velvet covers, but Gail grabs the ropes and breaks the pin. Wow. That's still a cage. I didn't think that a rope break was allowed. Well, Velvet goes over and argues with Madison as the cage door is open. Well, she's trying to escape. Gail tries to leave, but Velvet stops her. They tangle, and Gail turns it into a pin for the win. There was another report that Madison was holding the door, preventing Velvet from escaping the cage. Well, Gail brought her back in and got her for a pin. Winner of the match and retaining the Knockouts Championship, Gail Kim. After that, Ric Flair's music hits and out he comes for a surprise, according to Taz. Flair asks the fans if they have any idea who just walked into the ring. Flair singled out a fat boy in the front row and someone with no teeth. Flair puts himself over and says he's a special type of cat. Flair says he's pissed off, and when he's pissed off, it's not good for who he's pissed off at. Flair says Hulk Hogan just won't leave him alone, and tonight, Eric Bischoff's career was ended. Flair singled out another fat boy at ringside and ripped into him. Hogan's music hits, and out he comes. Hogan then approaches the cage, but he doesn't enter. Hogan says Flair is the greatest wrestler of all time and asks the fans if they agree. Hogan asks if he can enter Flair's ring. Flair wants him to come in so they can talk real quick. Flair tells SoCal Val to get her ass up and open the door for Hogan. Hogan says if Flair has a problem with the way he works as general manager, express it now. Flair says he's had a problem with Hogan for 30 years and he doesn't like the way he's running TNA. Flair says he should have been in Lethal Lockdown, not Bischoff. Flair says he works for Hogan now, but the day he gets to, he's pissed off. He will just kick Hogan's ass. Then we get a promo video for Matt Morgan versus Crimson. So I guess that little segment was over. We got a promo video for Matt Morgan and Crimson, and then the match is up next. They go to the ring. Out first comes Crimson, followed by his former partner Matt Morgan. Crimson tried to escape early on, but Morgan stops him. Morgan mounts on offense and hits a big side slam. Crimson tries to leave out of the cage door, but Morgan pulls him back in. Morgan slams Crimson head first into the cage, and he goes down. Morgan teases walking out of the cage and has a chance to. Morgan stops and comes back into the ring to continue the attack. Morgan goes for a chokeslam, but Crimson cuts him off and comes back with a big clothesline. Crimson with a 2 count now. Crimson with the knees to the head and an elbow. Crimson runs and hits a low drop kick for another 2 count. Crimson keeps control of Morgan until he runs into the big boot, probably the carbon footprint. Morgan comes back but gets caught with a spine buster for a 2. Crimson charges, but Morgan hits him with a spinning clothesline. Morgan with the right hand and more clotheslines. Morgan with a big boot to the face, which, like it was just in, carbon footprint. Morgan drops Crimson's face into the corner and back suplexes him. Morgan with a splash in the corner and a splash on the other side of the cage. Crimson ducks the big boot in the corner this time, and Morgan gets hung up with his foot over the ropes. Crimson climbs the cage and makes it to the top as Morgan grabs his leg. They fight on top rope now, but Morgan falls and the ropes hit between his legs. Crotch chop. Morgan falls to the mat with his leg hung on the rope. Crimson motions to Morgan and climbs over the cage to get the win and remain undefeated in singles action. Got a promo for Kurt Angle versus Jeff Hardy, which is up next. They went back to the cage. Now first comes Kurt Angle. Jeff Hardy was out next, and they start the match. Angle has control of the match early on and backs Hardy in the corner. Hardy would made a comeback and hit a low drop kick in the corner. Hardy would run right hands. They run the ropes, and Angle throws him head first into the cage wall. Angle takes back control and rubs Hardy's face into the cage. Angle continues to use the cage on Hardy and is busted open. Hardy finally comes back and hits a clothesline with a forearm on the ropes and offense in the corner. Hardy catches Angle with an elbow and hits a whisper in the wind. Hardy with a 2 count. Hardy with more offense and then a stunner. Hardy climbs up the cage, but Angle stops him. Angle suplexes Hardy back to the mat from up high on the cage and covers for only a 2. More back and forth action as the crowd gets into it. Hardy goes to leave the door, but Kurt pulls him out and back down and applies ankle lock. Hardy turns it around and has the ankle lock applied on Kurt. Angle breaks free, but Hardy hits Twist of Fate. Hardy hits Swanton up high now. He climbed back to the top rope and hit a second Swanton, but Angle kicked out at 2. Angle tried to call for time. There's no timeout in wrestling. But gets a cheap shot in. Angle hits the Angle slam, but Hardy kicked out at 2. Angle dropped the straps, the shoulder straps on his tights, but Hardy blocked the slam this time. Hardy hits an Angle slam on Angle, and then goes up to the top, and then Hardy decided to keep climbing up to the top of the cage. Swanton from the top of the cage, and then pins Angle for the win. Knockout title match, tag team title match, Rosita Sarita versus Eric Young. Not much of a match here. They go to the ring. Out first comes Rosita Sarita. The next out was the tag team champions, ODB and Eric Young. ODB started out by flooring Sarita in the corner. She tells Young to get out of the ring and goes back to work on Sarita. Rosita jumps on her back. Sarita accidentally clotheslines Rosita in the corner. ODB splashes them both and keeps Sarita and Rosita. Let's see. Keeps them in control of both of them as EY looks on. Comedy from Eric as he thinks he's the referee. Then Sarita and Rosita turn around on the ODB, keep control of her. Eric comes in and ODB gets double teamed. They try to put the moves on EY, but ODB gets up. She drinks some from her flask and goes to work on the challengers. ODB finally gets a win for her team. Doesn't say how. JV backstage with Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode talks about how he will beat Jane Storm tonight and has a hometown of Nashville. And he says he's the impact of professional wrestling. Promo video for tonight's main event. Jane Storm's driving his pickup into the arena. Makes his way to the cage, but out next comes the World Heavyweight Champion, Bobby Roode. Roode walks around the ring. Storm attacks from behind. Storm beats Roode up on the floor and brings the steel steps into play. Storm slams Roode's head into the steps. Storm leaps off the table and hits an elbow to the head. Earl Hebner tries to get them in the cage, but Storm keeps the fight outside. Roode blocks Storm, turns around on the floor. Storm counters and whips Roode hard into the fan barrier. Storm continues the assault outside the ring. Storm charges with a chair, but Roode moves and pushes Storm into the cage wall. Roode grabs a beer and drinks some. We see that Storm is busted open from the cage now. Roode with right hands, and we're still not in the cage yet. Then we see country star Montgomery Gentry and Storm's wife looking on from ringside. Finally, Roode brings Storm in the cage, and the bell rings. Roode keeps control as Storm bleeds. Roode with a suplex and a knee drop to the head. Roode with another 2 count. Roode hits right hands, but it doesn't phase Storm. Storm comes back with right hands, but Roode takes back control. Storm makes a comeback finally and catapults Roode into the cage. Storm keeps control for most of the part, but Roode, they go back and forth. The door is then open. Roode starts to crawl out. Storm grabs his leg and pulls him back in the ring. Roode turns that around, applies a crossface. They end up in the corner, and Roode goes for a superplex. Storm blocked it and they fight in the corner. Rude crawls up to leave the cage, but Storm tries to stop him. Storm gets knocked to the mat but crawls back up. He brings Rude back over and they fight on the top rope. More back and forth and close calls. Storm hits a big super kick but nails the referee with it instead. Hebner opens the door as Rude steps to the apron. Rude tells Hebner to give him a beer bottle, and he does. Rude comes back in and smashes Storm with the bottle, but Storm still kicks out at 2. Storm finally connects with a super kick, but doesn't do the job. Storm hits another super kick, but it knocks Rude out of the cage and then to the floor. Go figure, Bobby Roode retains. Lockdown goes off the air with Storm in the ring looking disappointed. Because he gave him the last call super kick and knocked him out of the cage. But did it knock him out of the cage or knock through the cage? One report said it knocked him through the cage. But it was probably out the door instead. Cheap, shitty finish. Well, that's my view of the pay-per-view. Thanks, and being that it's Monday, I'll give y'all Raw Partial Superstars later on tonight.